.837 on WMAL. Brian, even Mary, Catherine Ham for the Daily Caller in the house this morning. Wow, we had Alan West on the 7 o'clock hour, and as promised, Michele Bachmann joins us now, Republican from Minnesota. Alan West is Mr. Tea Party. Michele Bachmann is Mrs. Tea Party. Good morning, Michele. How are you? Congresswoman, I should say.
Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Mary Catherine Ham. It's what a thrill to be on with you both this morning.
Glad to have you.
So let's start off. Well, let's get this out of the way because I know everybody asks you this, and I'm going to.
Whatever could you be talking about?
Are you going to run for president or not?
Well, you'll know in the next few weeks. I'll let you know in June.
Let me know in June. Okay.
June.
So I'll write that down on my calendar. June.
Right.
Let me ask you this then: what do you make of Newt Gingrich joining the race yesterday?
Well, I think that it's wonderful that he's in the race. We'll have a very deep bench, I think, for the voters to choose from in November of 2012. I think it's been very clear that the voters are unhappy with Barack Obama, and rightly so on every metric. He has failed the American people, and I think people are just ready and anxious for a good, positive change.
All right. Now, to the budget battle that we're facing and the debt ceiling, and you are very stringent on saying, hey, we're not going to do this unless we get tremendous concessions. What concessions do you specifically want in order to raise the debt ceiling? Or are you in the camp of saying we're not going to raise it at all?
Well, I've come out and said that I don't believe that we should raise the debt ceiling because, number one, we do not have to go into default. We take in $2.2 trillion in revenue, and our debt service is about 10% or just under 10%. So we can first pay off our debts, and we have enough money to pay for Medicare, Social Security, the military. We can take care of the very, very basics. Now, there's a lot that would have to be cut, but I think right now is the problem. It isn't 10 years from now. It isn't 20 years from now. The problem is today, and I think that we should have a very frank discussion about every part of the budget today and figure out how we're going to pull it into balance. If, in fact, as politicians are wont to do, they want to keep raising the debt ceiling, the only possible way that I could vote for it would be if Barack Obama would give back the $105 billion that was secretly put into the Obamacare bill, and if we fully defunded Obamacare. So in effect, it would be repealed until after the next election, because this will be the program that ultimately is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It will bankrupt us to have socialized medicine, and for all practical purposes, that's what Obamacare is. Let me tell you one problem, major problem with Obamacare. It steals $500 billion out of Medicare and switches it to younger Americans. And Medicare is already in trouble. And I believe that Barack Obama knew that Congress would never let senior citizens go without Medicare. So that's an additional $500 billion that we'll have to find somewhere. On every level, this is a terrible program. We have to get rid of Obamacare.
Well, and what do you make of the fact that, maybe a month ago, a couple weeks ago, the entire left, the entire administration is saying you can't play chicken with the debt limit, you can't have a discussion about this, you can't even bargain because it's just too dangerous. And then Tim Geithner says, we've got till August.
Well, I think that, Mary Catherine Ham, you're exactly right. You exposed a very weak underbelly from the administration. They haven't been straight with the American people. They've been very clear that they want to continue with business as usual. They want to make sure they can keep spending money. And so they wanted to scare everyone. They weren't telling the American people the truth. And so I think we need to get the facts on the table. And President Obama has lost a lot of credibility. So many things he's promised, everything from we'll never have unemployment go above 8% if we spend $1 trillion to what he wanted to do with energy. On every level, he has not been square with us. And I think that the American people are just tired of it. And that's why I think they are looking for a new face who is going to mean what they say and say what they mean, someone they can trust in 2012.
All right, but what about you hear this from Ben Bernanke and from other people that essentially say if you do what you want to do and not raise the debt ceiling and still pay off our obligations, but ultimately that will just raise interest rates, which means we'll actually have to pay more money, and so you're not going to actually lower the deficit. It will stay the same or even go higher because interest rates will go up under your plan.
Well, interest rates will go up for a federal government as our debt and our outlook on debt is weaker. And we all know it was several weeks ago that Standard & Poor's came out and said that our outlook for the first time in our history was negative on our creditworthiness. as a country. This is a very serious warning. That's the canary in the mine shaft, if you will, telling us that we have to get our house in order. If we want to really put our America's full faith and credit at risk, keep borrowing at the rate we're borrowing. We can't do that. Now, in the short term, the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates artificially low. They should have been a little bit higher. I love low interest rates too. Who doesn't?
Right.
But they should have gone up, and that has led to debasing our dollar. In the last 2 years, the dollar has lost over 20% in value. Let me repeat that. In the last 2 years, the American dollar has lost over 20% in value. That is like the federal government stealing from every American when our currency is worth less. And you see that with the price of gold going through the roof.
All right, let me ask.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to switch because we don't have a lot of time, and it's great to have you on the program. I want to get on two national security issues. Number one, the aid that we're giving to Pakistan. Is that something that you say needs to be looked at or pulled completely?
Oh, it absolutely needs to be looked at. I think we need to get all the facts on the table. It appears as though there has been double dealing on the part of Pakistan, and while that's not beyond the pale to think that they might do that, it might be far worse than what we had been led to believe. And so I think for Pakistan to be a, quote, partner, unquote, with us, we need to get something for that. And so I think I sit on the House Intelligence Committee, and as a matter of fact, as we're talking, I'm driving right now over to the CIA headquarters where I'll be seeing the bin Laden photos today. And I sit on that committee, and what I can tell you from open source documents is that there are very real concerns regarding our trustworthiness of Pakistan, and that they need to be held accountable.
That was my next question for you. I was wondering if the House Intelligence Committee members get to see the photos, because there seems to be a hierarchy of who gets to see the bin Laden photos and who doesn't. What's your take on that, and why we're not releasing them and whether we should?
Well, today, I believe it was beginning yesterday afternoon, members of the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committees were allowed to go over and see the bin Laden photos. I would imagine, Mary Catherine Ham and Brian, that at some point all members of Congress will be able to see the photo. I can't say that won't be my decision, but after I see the photo, I can let you know a little bit more.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Anytime. Bye-bye.
Michele Bachmann here on WMAL.